King of Kings. It's a
The
dynasty
King
league.
of Kings.
10 teams. Mid-season check-in from Yards per Fantasy. What's going on, Sam? You ready
Not much, man. How are you? I guess I missed the first time you guys went through the King of Kings. It's my understanding this is the first year of a dynasty league. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
And it's a salary cap league.
Okay.
And the salaries are the real life salaries of these players. Something that on the first episode, it took us until pretty much the end to figure out.
Gotcha.
We were thinking they had done like an auction draft, and this is how they allocated their salaries. And some of them were looking pretty bad.
Right.
Until we realized that, it's these NFL teams that
like
are
you gave them
bad.
how many million?
All right. So what we usually do with these during the season is we start at the bottom of the standings with the losers, and then we work our way up to the real teams. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So that brings us to seems appropriate that the Dallas Cowboys are the bottom team.
Yeah, bringing up the rear.
So we'll start with the Cowboys. They got C.J. Stroud at quarterback. He's been one of the biggest disappointments in fantasy football this year. Chuba Hubbard just got paid in kind of a weird situation for the Panthers.
He did?
He did? You didn't see that this week?
Huh.
Oh, nice 4-year contract, $33 million, $8 million a year.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
I bet Jonathan Brooks owners love that.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they love it just as much as Panthers fans who are sitting there wondering, what the hell is this team doing?
Right.
So we also got Tony Pollard as the second running back here. DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Jameson, I'm always suspended Williams, TJ Hawkinson, Bucky Irving, and then on the bench we got Cam Akers, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, Jerome Ford, Justice Hill, Miles Sanders, Tajay Spears, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, and Jacoby Myers. These are big benches. Cedric Tillman, Tucker Craft, Rico Dowdle, Dallas Goedert. In the IR spot is Nico Collins, and we don't care about your kicker or your defense. So what stands out to you?
We do not care about kickers and defenses.
What stands out to you about this team here?
Well, we've gotten some good fantasy performances from Chuba and Pollard of late. Obviously outplaying Tajay Spears, but Stroud is who I thought he was last year. I thought that was not a flash in the pan. It's not like he's bad. But when you've got no mobility, you better throw 40 touchdowns.
Right.
And obviously they've been waiting around for, I don't know what the thoughts are, if they were putting a lot of stock in Nick Chubb coming back and being old school Nick Chubb, or Hawkinson for that matter. But there's good players here, but it's for a 10-team league. Like if this was a 12-team league, I'd be a little more impressive. I'm not really impressed with the running backs at all. Even though Hubbard and Pollard have performed well, I mean, what do you got after that? You've got a bunch of timeshares and hope somebody gets hurt situations.
Yeah, it feels like a very short-term build for the running back position.
Yeah, and that could work. I mean, for your first dynasty season, any new dynasties I joined this year, one of the first things, whether we were starting off from scratch or if I was taking over an orphan, because that's what I like to do. It was just bypassing running backs all day long, because the 2025 class is going to be really nice for running backs. You're going to be able to get guys to build on, and they're going to put some of the older guys out of work. So yeah, short-term build in that, but
well, unfortunately, this team will not be in position to acquire any of those running backs, consider they do not have a first-round pick in 2025, they do not have a first-round pick in 2026, and they do not have a first-round pick in 2027.
Where did those picks go?
I don't know.
Okay. I gotta be. I mean, I know it's not super flex and everything, but like, what, I don't know what the deal is with the salary cap and how many dollars these guys have to spend in waivers. But I'm a little surprised that I'm only seeing one quarterback on this roster. So what do you do
Considering who's available?
when Sam Darnold's sitting out there, who probably isn't even making that much, is he?
He can't be, no.
But yeah, so otherwise, what do you do when Stroud is off? You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. If they don't have a first round pick next year, then you're tanking for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really have. I mean, even at receiver, I don't see any studs I'm excited about other than okay, I guess they got Nico Collins down to the IR spot. We
Yeah.
can kind of build a team around him, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of
and
work to do here.
Yeah, and I think you might be able to fetch a first towards the end of the year for Mike Evans or one of the teams that is, pushing their chips into the middle of the table for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know when the trade deadline is, but yeah, it's or Hawkinson or Kraft. I don't know if you could get a first for them, but one of those guys. Everybody always needs tight ends, so. Yeah, I would try to make some moves and get yourself some extra picks next year. Otherwise, you're going to be down there again.
Yeah, I think this team's going to be at the bottom of the league for a couple of years.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to. Go ahead.
But if you build it right, eventually the team that's at the bottom of for a couple years can end up at the top for a couple years.
That's right. Absolutely. Let's move on to the Jaguars. They are 3-6 in 9th place. You want to run through this one? I don't know if you have it pulled up yet.
Yeah, as soon as I find it here.
Well, this one is a much better situation with the quarterback
position. Okay, I'm going to go, rather than going through the starting lineup, I'm just going to go through the roster here.
Let's do it.
So we've got Drake May and Trevor Lawrence. At running back, we've got Tank Bigsby, Jonathan Taylor, Tyrone Tracy, Kamani Vidal, Zach Charbonnet, Travis Etienne to go along with Bigsby, Kenneth Walker. Wide receiver, Cup, London, Thomas, Harrison, Leggett, Parker, Washington. Tight end, we've got Laporta, Ferguson, and When You're Strange. And I don't care about all those defenses very much. So what jumps out at you on this one?
Well, I do, just on first glance, I do like it a heck of a lot better than the last team.
It is very much so.
Yeah, I mean, I like building a team around Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that with his rushing ability here and his cheap salary. He's making under 10 million. We're strong. We're pretty strong at running back. I like these guys. Tyrone Tracy having a big breakout rookie year. I think he could be the guy moving forward beyond this year.
Yep.
I like Kamani Vidal, kind of stashing him, just kind of see what happens with that situation. I think Kenneth Walker is one of these guys who's going to be, a top 15 running back for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be there until the injuries really catch up. Like, he always misses a little bit of time. But as long as it's only a little, that's fine.
Yeah. The wide receivers are really strong. I mean, we got, a win now guy in Cooper Kupp, who I think can still be highly productive over a couple more years. He's 31. I think he can get out there to 33, 34 and remain productive. And then you got Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr. These are both top 10 dynasty wide receivers, as is Marvin Harrison Jr. And then you got some other guys, that hope, like Leggett, that you hope maybe can develop into something. Parker Washington, be a little depth if they move on from Christian Kirk. He becomes the starting slot guy moving forward. And then we got a tight end. Laporta has been really disappointing this year, but I think overall, he's a talented tight end. He's not going to be the guy that he was last year. He's probably going to be a little bit more of like in between the disappointment of this year and the big breakout of last year. He can be a steady, mid to low tight end one for you every year. He's in a good offense, can give you some spike weeks. So I think he's a solid play there at tight end. The depth here is pretty solid too with Charbonnet. I like Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange is interesting. He had some decent weeks when Evan Ingram was out.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely an improvement on the last team. I think this team at least has a direction, some pieces you can build around, where I didn't feel like that was really there with the Cowboys roster.
Yeah, and I can see why this team is towards the bottom of the standings. They're waiting around for Drake May, and Trevor Lawrence wasn't wowing anybody. Tyrone Tracy didn't have the job yet. Kenneth Walker missed a couple games, although it looks like you had Charbonnet to fill in there. Marvin Harrison has taken a little longer than we thought he would. Cooper Kupp was injured. And Laporta and Ferguson is an interesting situation because they're both reliant on touchdowns, in my opinion. Ferguson maybe a little less, which I think it should be the other way around. But I can see why they're sitting down here. I definitely think they'll make a move up the board this season. I don't think this is a title contender, but I think it's going to be smack dab in the middle of not getting a great pick next year, but also not contending this year. So I really wouldn't buy or sell much of anything on here.
Well, let me tell you their pick situation. So the Cowboys had 0 first-round picks over the next 3 years, while the Jaguars have 11 first-round picks over the next 3 years. They go 1, 2, 3 in 2025, 1, 2, 3 in 2024, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 2027. And I didn't mean 2024, I meant 2026. But so,
wow.
11. So this team, with some of the pieces that they have on the roster, like a Brian Thomas, like a Marvin Harrison Jr., and a Drake London that we talked about, Drake May, this team is in position to, over the next few years, possibly take over this league if they play it right.
I think so. If that's the case, then I wouldn't sell anything. I'd be perfectly content with winding up, in the middle of the pack. I think this team can get up to about probably 6th place, obviously without looking at the other teams right now. But and be okay with that, just knowing that they've got, elite picks for the next couple of years to build around.
Yeah, this team is going to be, we're going to talk about this team in like 2026, 2027, 2028. They're going to be multi-time champion if they play it correctly.
Yeah, well, it's good that they will, because their namesake won't.
That is for sure.
I wonder if these people are all from these places.
I don't know.
That'd be really curious to me.
But then we have a one team that didn't follow the memo here on the team names. But we'll get to him. We'll get to him in a little while. So let's move on to the
question is, does the MD mean doctor, or does it mean Maryland, because somebody already took Baltimore?
Maybe. Let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks, 8th place, 3-6. I'm going to do what you did, actually, with the I like the way you approached the roster here. Now I just got to pull it up. All right, here we go. Seahawks. All right, Jaden Daniels and Justin Fields at quarterback. So we're a little late on the depth at quarterback, but we talked about the guys who are available on the waiver wire. So whatever there. But we got the king, Jaden Daniels, running the show here. I think he could be a star for you, especially in fantasy football for the next decade.
Easily.
Yeah. And then a running back, we're pretty light at running back, or I should say we're really light at running back, with Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, Raheem Mostert, Austin Eckler, and Antonio Gibson.
Oof.
That's all she wrote at running back.
That's bad.
We're pretty rough there. Wide receiver, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Darnell Mooney, DJ Chark, Jerry Jeudy, Alan Lazard. Pretty rough shape there as well. George Kittle and Mike Gesicki at tight end. At least we got Kittle. League winner Kittle. And then, we don't care what the two defenses, the three defenses and the two kickers. Pretty bad team is my first take here. What do you think?
Yeah, this is not good.
This is got Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, they've got Jaden Daniels, so they've got, the piece that they're going to build around. But Kareem Hunt, I don't even know if he's long for this season.
No, he's not.
Let alone for the future.
Yeah.
Javonte should be better, but they're not. I personally don't think they're using him correctly, and it says to me that I don't think they're gonna. But Mostert's almost done. Keenan's almost done. McLaurin is almost done. These are all guys that are way up there, and I don't even know why Chark is here.
Chark doesn't know why Chark is here.
No. But I mean, Lazard, Gesicki, this is just a team full of, what this screams at me, somebody drafting a team that is not
with the eyes closed.
Work. What's that?
With their eyes closed?
No, somebody that hasn't put the work in to look at who's going to be good this year. So they're going with who was good 2 years ago.
Only two?
Or three.
You could go back to like 2018.
Yeah.
Some of these,
yeah, this team, I'd have to go back and look at that first team we did, but this team's going to give
this team is bad.
This team's going to give them a run for their money.
Like, what do you even hang your hat on here besides Jaden Daniels, which he doesn't even give you that big of an edge in a 10-team league,
right?
With all these quarterbacks that are available on the waiver wire. I mean, he's nice to have. He's good to have, good piece to build around. But there are other leagues where he's going to give you more of an edge than he does in this league.
Well, it should be noted also that this team has scored the second least points in the league. behind the team we're about to do. So I can't wait to see that.
Well, let me add some insult to injury here. Let's go.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. I wasn't trying to skip ahead. Believe me, I could look at this train wreck
No,
all
no,
day.
no. The draft picks are sad, really sad here. You're gonna no first anytime in 25, 26, 27. We don't even have a second until 2027.
I don't understand what's going on with the draft.
Where did these picks go to? Where did they go? You're gonna get a good player.
I mean, are these guys like convincing someone to like eat guys' salaries in return for like the next 3 firsts? Or
They're making Brock Osweiler deals
for a team this bad to not have any picks is mind-blowing. I'm completely confused. We might have to redo this episode once they explain to us what the fuck is going on here.
This is ugly. I don't get it. There's no hope here. This guy's gonna quit the league. I hope that this league requires that when you trade a future first, you pay for that season.
Yes,
because this guy is tanking this team into the ground. You're not going to be able to fill this orphan when this guy realizes how bad his team is and he quits the league.
Yeah, for you guys who haven't played Dynasty before, that is a thing that a lot, if not most, leagues do. As soon as you trade off a pick, you have to pay for that season. Or as soon as you acquire a pick, you pay for that season.
Especially when you have incompetent managers like this that just tank their teams into the ground.
Damn, you just flat out called him incompetent.
Look at his roster. Look at his draft.
Somebody's girlfriend or something.
This is year 1 of this dynasty league. He's already traded all of these picks away from 3 years out. For what?
I would have a hard time drafting a team that bad in redraft. Never mind Dynasty.
I know. I just
because it's Dynasty, you don't even have young people. There's not even any young people.
I don't get it. This is the worst team in the league.
Yes, far. That is.
It is will be for the next decade. He's going to have to sell Jaden Daniels as one good player. He's going to have to sell him for a haul.
Right.
All right, let's move on. Let's see if we can get some real teams here.
No, I don't think we're going to. At least not right now. I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying that
this whole league is 3-6.
The Green Bay Packers also 3-6, also the lowest scoring team in the league. They have put up a whopping 782 points, and they just suffered their 6th straight loss. By the way, that last team has won 2 in a row.
What?
Okay. I mean, just whatever. All right. Green Bay, here we go. I'm going down the roster. So
I love how they pay us to just rip them apart.
I know. and offer no actionable advice.
Well, I'm sure the person who paid for this league is on like 1st and 2nd. They're the only ones who know what they're doing.
And he's just howling right now. Okay. I'll start. I'm actually looking at the starting roster right now. We've got Justin Herbert at quarterback, along with Breece Hall and Bijan in the backfield.
Okay, it's a good start.
Amari Cooper, Malik Neighbors, Chris Olave, he of the headache.
Poor guy.
Trey McBride, who is, I believe, the tight end 1 without having scored a touchdown this season. Devon A. Chain, Jordan Love at backup quarterback, Ray Davis, who you love, Alexander Madison, who we both love.
Oh, we love Alexander Madison.
Yeah.
He belongs on the last team.
Jalen Wright, Jonathan Mingo, Josh Palmer, Jaden Reed to go with his love. Mike Williams, is he still alive?
He is. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah. Cole Kmet and Braylon Allen. We've got AJ Do Nothing Dillon.
All right, he somehow is still alive.
Yes.
Barely.
And in the we've got Trey Benson and Marshawn Lloyd. I like this team.
Yeah, we got some pieces to build around here.
Yeah.
And they get all their first round picks over the next 3 years.
Oh my God. That's unheard of. Yeah. So what you got, Alex?
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not a team that I'm like, all right, they're going to contend in 2024, but this team has some pieces to build around. You got Brees Hall, you got Bijan, you got Malik Neighbors, who's a stud. I mean, these are like top, these are all guys you're seeing drafted in the first round of dynasty startups, first or second round, all these guys.
Right.
And you got them all along with Achane. Trey McBride, as you said, he's one of the top tight ends, maybe even the top tight end, depending on your scoring format. Jordan Love, nice young quarterback to build around with his wide receiver one, Jaden Reed. He's a little volatile, but he gives you big spike weeks, and we love that. I do like Ray Davis. I think he's better than James Cook. Jonathan Mingo is terrible. I don't know what the Cowboys were doing when they traded a 4th round pick for Jonathan Mingo just a few years after they traded away Amari Cooper for a 5th round pick who's actually good at football. I'll never understand that trade. I like Braylon Allen. I like Trey Benson. I like Marshawn Lloyd. These are guys we're just going to be patient with. Wait for their moment. Wait for their time. At least one of these guys is going to be a starting running back in the league over the next couple of years. And like I said, all the first round picks, we love that. We don't have a second in 2025, but we got a full slate of picks in 2026, 2027. So yeah, this is definitely a team, like I said, maybe isn't ready to contend right now, but this team could be a playoff team next year. This team could be a contender in 2025 if you use your pieces correctly, if a few things break the right way. There's definitely good pieces, good young pieces to build around with this roster. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be an absolute difference maker. If they get him a quarterback in the next year or two,
yeah,
he's going to be, one of your top 3, top 5 perennial stud wide receivers, right up there with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. It's going to be the trio of LSU wide receivers at the top of the dynasty rankings.
Yeah, it's just you probably already said this. I had to step away. I might have to again later, but just the youth at running back here. When I was saying that I've got dynasty leagues where I was specifically waiting for the running back class of 2025. If I wasn't, I would have made a run at as many of these guys as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The Bensons and the Wrights and, obviously with Hall and Robinson, you don't even need them to come along that quick because those two guys are, still raring to go. I mean, they're not even 24 yet. Achane is there. I mean, this is a heavy running back built team. I'm not an Olave fan. I don't think he's ever going to get out from under the concussions. And Cooper's probably almost done. So it's, I don't know, looks to me like next year in the draft, you're pivoting for wideouts at that point.
Unless What I would be looking to do is taking these existing running backs, using them to go get your wide receivers, and then use some of your draft picks to grab some of those young incoming stud running backs that you talked about. And that way, in 2 years, this team is an absolute juggernaut.
Right. This team's going to be on top of the league pretty soon.
Yeah.
They're not waiting for much. They're going to need I like Love at quarterback along with Herbert. I think that's strong too. They're going to need some who was the they've got Trey McBride. I mean, this team's loaded. This, for a dynasty team, this is loaded.
Yeah, I agree. Can you take like a Brees Hall plus, Olave or Jaden Reed and just tier up to one of these stud wide receivers?
I mean, go try to get, one of the tops. Try to get a CeeDee Lamb or a Jamar Chase. And Brees Hall, I guess the big question is, what are the Jets going to do? Because obviously they already know what they have with Braylon Allen. I don't think it's going to end up being a two-headed committee. So the question is, is it only Brees on his current contract and he'll sign a payday somewhere else and the Jets will move on with a new quarterback and Braylon Allen in 2 years?
It's a very realistic possibility.
Yeah. So this team's stacked, though. I like it a lot.
I do as well.
Yeah. What's that one called again?
That was the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, man. And considering the lack of points they've scored, I don't get that unless they're not, and 6 straight losses, unless they're just not setting lineups. I don't understand.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's very strange. Okay.
All right. Let's move on to the Buffalo Bills, another 3-6 team.
All right, talk to me about it.
All right, so we're starting at quarterback with Josh Allen.
Of course we are. It's the Buffalo Bills.
Of course. Actually, hold on. I like the where it shows you the full roster. All right, Josh Allen and Caleb Williams at quarterback. At running back, we got Chase Brown, who's having a nice little breakout here during the middle of the season. Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey, who's finally back. Khalil Herbert, Jordan Mason, Eric Gray, and Roshan Johnson at running back. Devontae Adams, Keon Coleman, Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison, B. Johnson. Why am I blanking on who that could be?
Brandon?
B. Johnson?
Brandon Johnson.
Oh, worthless. Quentin Johnston, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs. Then we got a tight end, Kincaid, Ingram, Luke Musgrave. What stands out to you about this team?
Well, strong for this year at running back and probably moving forward with Chase Brown and potentially Jordan Mason. I'm a huge Roshan fan. I'm just waiting for him to get his shot because I don't think he's going to relinquish it once he does. Obviously, with Josh Allen, you've got arguably the best fantasy quarterback in the league. And Caleb Williams is not going to be any slouch either once he gets through, his rookie season, maybe into his sophomore season. I'm not thrilled about the wide receivers.
Yeah.
They're good, but they're just good. You know what I mean? They're not knockouts. Either they're real old or they're young and underperforming. Right. Jalen Waddle hasn't scored more than 8 points since like week 1.
Literally. Week 1, 16 points. Nothing since.
Yeah.
It's averaging 8.2 fantasy points per game.
Yeah. So I think we've got building blocks here at every position, or most positions. Obviously, you're starting with the quarterback, and for starting with the quarterback, this is a pretty good situation. But you've got Chase to build around at running back, at wide receiver. I'm just not exactly sure.
Well, they were probably winning pretty early in the season with Godwin and Diggs.
Yeah, and
Metcalf.
and I think Diggs will still be good for another couple years. But I'm high on Diggs where others are low. People thought just because he left Josh Allen that he was useless, and I'm not buying that. McCaffrey, jury's out.
Put him on the trade block.
What's that?
Put him on the trade block. You're 3 and 6. Put him on the trade block. You got to trade him.
Put him on the trade block right now.
Yeah, before he pops his Achilles this weekend.
Yeah. Nobody else heard that, right? But if McCaffrey is back and plays the rest of the season, he could really fetch you a pretty penny for a contender that's just barely almost there, ready to make a run. So tight ends are probably going to be a problem. Luke Musgrave has fallen out of favor for me. And Ingram is he's just getting up there. I know he still does it every year, but and Devontae Adams won't be in New York any longer than Aaron Rodgers is, so the clock's ticking.
Oh yeah, he's gone after the year. He's not even back. Even if Rodgers is back, he's gone. There's no way.
Yeah, I tend to think that they're going to retire together, but yeah, I could see them. This is you've got some small building blocks, but there's a lot of work to do here. And I think the first thing to do is to sell off the pieces you can get value for.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just it's
as
time to sell.
As soon as Waddle has a big game, get him out of there. Same with Devontae. And Mixon should fetch a good price right this minute.
Yep. Yeah. So we're definitely sellers. Get some young pieces. Get some more draft picks. At least we haven't sold too many draft picks. We don't have a first in 2027, but we have the rest of our picks over the next 3 years. Just the message here for this team: sell. Be aggressive with selling, and start setting your team up to rebuild and have a productive offseason. So moving forward to 2025, 2026.
And it should be noted here, you guys, that this is just kind of how it goes in dynasty leagues. Like, we're not deliberately slagging all these teams. This is how dynasty works every year. You about this point in the season, you look if you're closer at the bottom or closer at the top. And if you're closer to the top, then you decide, am I going to buy? Am I going to buy and try to make a run at this thing? And if you're closer to the bottom, this is when you start putting everybody on the trade block in order to improve draft picks and such like that, so that you can eventually flip the league.
The worst place to be is in the middle.
The middle stinks. Just don't deliberately tank. That's no fun. But my goal is always to sell all the pieces that are making me win.
Right. That's how you tank. That's how you tank. Not don't do it by not setting your lineup or putting the wrong players in your lineup. You want to tank by selling the productive players. I have a dynasty team this year that is atrocious because I've just sold off all the good pieces.
Yeah.
and I'm racing to the bottom.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've got one I took over. It's an orphan. And I started selling. I went in there and just sold immediately. I sold everything I could. And the only person I couldn't get what I consider to be fair value for was Joe Burrow. And he's winning me too many fucking games.
I made a trade a few weeks ago. The team that was in last place, they were winless. I was in 10th, so I was, on track to be the third overall pick. I traded him a few of my good players. I got some young players and some picks back for it. He has since moved up the rankings because he's won a few games, and I keep tanking to the bottom.
I love that. I love that. It's sound strategy.
Yeah, it is. It's perfect. I'm like, this is working exactly how I wanted. I sent him Jameer Gibbs, which is perfect because that's the last piece you want on a rebuild team as a running back. That's like the cherry on the top of the team. Once you get the rest of the team built, then you add those stud running backs. So I had zero use for a stud running back. Sell him, get some, get Roma Dunze, get some draft picks, and it's working out pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the LA Rams in fifth place. We got our first winning record.
Yeah, I don't want to alarm anybody. We're at 5-4 here.
Wow. This is one of the middle teams.
And I don't know what the I'm not looking at the division split, but they're 4-2 in the division. It should be noted they are the second highest scoring team in the league and have also given up the second most points. So I'll be interested to see what we're looking at here. LA Rams. Okay. Oh, speak of the devil and his nymph shall appear. Joe Burrow is heading up the crew along with Aaron Jones and Kyron Williams. Both of them. Kyron Williams is all he does is score touchdowns.
All he's good for.
That's right. Aaron Jones, old reliable. Oh, and he's got the Burrow Jamar Chase stack. So right now, this week,
he's chalk up a W for week 10.
Yeah, go ahead and write up a win for this week. Oh, and Mark Andrews. Oh boy. Josh Downs, who I'm a huge fan of. Tyreek Hill has just not looked like himself.
I'm going to step in 1 second.
Yeah.
His opponent has Lamar Jackson.
Well, but still, I mean, Jamar Chase outscored Lamar.
As did Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Just
but that is a high-scoring one. And the only reason I know that off the top of my head is because in my home league, I have Jamar and I'm up against Lamar Jackson. And the Baltimore defense. They didn't do anything. No. Josh Downs, I'm a fan of Tyreek Hill. Miami's really, really leaned into the running game ever since Tua came back. And Tyreek is not reaping many benefits of that. But you're just still waiting for that one game where he has like 200 yards. And
this could be the week. This could be the week against the Rams. This could be the week.
Yeah, and scores 3 times. Well, yeah, especially because the Rams are playing better run defense right now. So they might actually be able to keep a bottle on Etienne and Mostert. Mark Andrews at tight end, Josh Jacobs in the flex. And he has not ceded a lot of work yet to anybody. I expected that to be Marshawn Lloyd, but he's been injured the whole time. So Kyler Murray's on the bench with old man James Conner, Keaton Mitchell, who I like at some point. Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, who is in the process of losing his job. Wandale, who I was high on Wandale because of the number of targets he was gotten, but that now that that's gone down because his average yards per catch are so short that he's
They're
just
short
not.
as him.
Yeah, he's just not scoring.
It's just not
You
that.
know,
It's not his style of play.
yeah, no, I mean the floor's fine when you need a fill in. The floor of 7 or 8 points is fine, but he's never going to go out there
He's
and get you 22.
he's essentially a check down running back.
He
That's what
is.
he does.
That's exactly right. Which is kind of ironic because his teammate is the starting running back, and he's probably a better wide receiver than Wandale. I mean, Tyrone Tracy is probably a better wideout than Wandale. Isaiah Likely's there. Pierre Strong. I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that. Brandon Ayuk and Hollywood Brown. I hate Hollywood Brown with a passion.
What do you do?
And
Nothing. Right? Not scoring any points.
what's that?
I said, what did he do to you? Nothing. Not scoring any fantasy points.
Yeah, no, just always sitting on the couch.
IR spot.
Yeah. Brandon Ayuk, I am a fan of. Although when he came back, he didn't do. You're probably better off that he's on the IR now because it was such a bummer once he finally signed his contract. Lad McConkey, Malik Washington, and Ben Sinnott are the young guys on the bench here. I like Lad a lot. Malik, I don't know what to make of him. I just never watched a whole lot of his college tape. So I don't know that much about him. I roster him in a couple dynasty leagues. I just don't know what Miami's going to do going forward. If they're going to let, if Tyreek's still going to retire, if they're going to let Waddle walk, or if they're just going to go to a run game exclusively. I don't know. But what's jumping out of you here, man?
Yeah, this team is like the epitome of that middle of the pack dynasty team that you don't want to be in. The spot you don't want to be. You got to make some decisions. I think this team you need to choose a direction. You're either going to start making some moves, try to improve this roster, try to make a run this year, or you're going to start selling pieces off. It's really hard to make that call. I mean, obviously this week kind of gives you some hope with Burrow and Chase.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what Josh Downs can do with Joe Flacco moving forward when they don't have to play the Vikings. And Tyreek Hill when he gets Tua going. So I think this team does have some pieces to start making a run. I just don't know if they can get all the way to the finish line.
But this is I do think this is the first team we've gotten to where we said that the manager could decide which direction they want to go.
Yeah.
They could decide to add talent, add young talent if they're going to make a run so that they don't have to blow the whole thing up next season and still be in a position to make a run. Or start selling off all the big names,
Yeah, I don't know when the trade deadline is in this league, but if it's one of these leagues that doesn't have a trade deadline or it's right at the start of the playoffs, I think I'm going to let it play out a couple more weeks and just kind of see where it takes us, see how Tyreek and Tua start clicking, see if Burrow and Chase can continue this. And like I said, Josh Downs, see if Kyron Williams can continue to score touchdowns. I think he's probably the biggest sell in Dynasty right now is Kyron Williams. But if you want to ride him while he's hot, ride him while he's hot.
Right.
Jacobs, if you do decide to start selling some pieces off, even just to tear up and try to make a run, you're looking at Kyron Williams at the top of your trade list, Josh Jacobs, James Conner. These are the guys I'd be looking to package together and either sell for picks and young studs or to tier up and try to improve this starting lineup to make that run. Those are the guys I'm circling.
Yeah, I would even consider lateral movement in a dynasty league on guys like Tyreek Hill, even if he does start, well, especially if he starts playing better, of trading him in for a newer model that's putting up about the same points as him.
Roma Dunze.
Like Roma Dunze. But you love Roma Dunze.
Yeah, sure do.
But you know what I mean? And that way you're left holding the empty bag when Tyreek decides he's done.
Yeah, you could probably trade him and one of these running backs for an Adunze, even Brian Thomas, who maybe gives you some more of that equal or close to production this year.
Yeah. No, Brian Thomas, that's a good idea. I like that one too. But yeah, you're going to be 6-4 after this week. So, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But it certainly looks like you're trending that way, which is going to put you right in the thick of everything. If one of these teams above you loses, all of a sudden, boom, you're in the top 4. So, and you've scored the second most points. So you're going to, if anybody loses, you're probably going to leapfrog them.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, speaking of the top 4, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're sitting in 4th place at 6.
Boo.
Just one game back from first place.
They are just one game back of first place. And I will note before you go down the line that they have only had 823 points scored against them. And that is far and away the least of any team in the league.
Interesting.
And they have won 4 straight. They also have only scored 912 points, which looks like about 4th. So points 4. So I already have my doubts as to whether or not they can keep this up. But let's see who we got.
We got a quarterback. We got 3 guys. We got Brock Purdy. We got Jared MVP Goff. And we got Aaron Rodgers. Running back, we got Jahmyr Gibbs, Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad White. Then it gets kind of ugly with Ty Chandler and Gus Edwards. Wide receiver, pretty light at wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb is underperforming. T. Higgins is injured again. DeAndre Hopkins looked nice last week with the Chiefs. We'll see if that can continue. I think he's probably going to hover right around that wide receiver 20, wide receiver 24 ranking from here on out for the rest of the year. Romeo Dobbs, Demario Douglas, Michael Pittman is having an awful season between his back injury, Anthony Richardson. It's just been a catastrophic season for the breakout of Josh Downs just has not been good for Michael Pittman. He has lost a ton of dynasty value this year, which is really unfortunate because I was Michael Pittman guy. I was an Anthony Richardson guy. It hasn't fared well for me. So I know that these guys have lost a ton of value this year, unfortunately. Jackson Smith and Jigba just had a big breakout week. And then Rashid Shaheed, who was trending really strong early in the year before his injury, rounds out the wide receiver core.
Yeah, he was the wide receiver 1.
He sure was
on that team.
On that team, yeah. That was the Saints had a great season. They had a great season. That 2024 week 1 and 2, that was a fantastic season.
Man, those were the days. Those were the days.
They were offenses of all time.
Those were simpler times.
One of the best offenses I've ever seen. The 2024 week 1 and 2 Saints.
Yep.
Dalton Schultz at tight end. He's just a guy, and he's proven that this year. David Njoku, Cody Parkinson. Yeah, I think this team is really desperate to get T. Higgins back, really desperate for DeAndre Hopkins to be more of what he was last week with the Chiefs the rest of the year. Jackson Smith and Jigba to be closer to what he was last week. If that happens, this team can make a run. I'm just not so confident that all those things can come together.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think about this roster here?
I think it's streaky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've seen Ramondre have a great couple games. I've also seen him at his worst. I'm really curious. I'm really curious here because we're looking at the roster. Like, was T. Higgins in the game on Thursday? You know what I mean? Like, did you start him? I don't understand why his name would be there. And maybe that's why you've scored less points than anybody
He did.
else.
He did. He's in the starting lineup.
Yep.
He's in the starting lineup.
Maybe that's one of the reasons your points are so low, is because you've probably done that more than once. But even CeeDee Lamb's been streaky because Dak was streaky. DeAndre, I think, is going to be real good for the rest of the way here. And he's going to be better than the Chiefs thought they had at Hollywood Brown. Certainly better than Juju. Jahmyr Gibbs, stud. Purdy is always up there, but at the same time flying under the radar. Schultz, I'm impressed with. Rashad White lately has been streaky because now there's three heads back there. Jared Goff, potential league winner.
Real life league.
Huh?
I don't know if he's scoring fantasy wise to be a league winner.
I mean, maybe not right now, but in the past, he's done this to us. You know what I mean? Where you didn't really think anything of it, and then you looked at the end of the year, and he was like QB6 because he caught fire late in the season. But I don't know. It's just I guess I'm more commenting on the fact that I like him a lot as a backup here.
It's been fantastic.
But Romeo Doubs, talk about streaky. Pop Douglas, gonna be streaky. Pittman, I don't even know if he has a streak in him left. JSN, streaky. Njoku, streaky. You know what I mean? Like, the problem is this team could definitely make a run to the playoffs if they get hot at the right time, but they also could very easily be like suffer one of the worst playoff losses. You know what I mean? Like, if everybody like doesn't put up, they shut up.
Yeah.
For 1 week, then
well, if there was going to be,
they could lose like 100-30.
If there was going to be a team that's currently in position to make the playoffs that falls out of playoff, ranks by the time the playoffs start, my money would be on this team.
Yeah, it's just so streaky. So to get all these guys on the same page is next to impossible, and that's not a comment on the drafting at all. It's just a comment on how things have worked out for a lot of players on this team this year.
It doesn't help when you don't set your starting lineup.
What's that? Yeah. You're not going to make the playoffs if you don't set your starting lineup. All
right. Well, this guy didn't seem to put a lot of time into setting his lineup, so we're not going to put a lot of time into talking about his team. Let's move on to the.
Plus, it's the Steelers. Fuck the Steelers.
Let's move on to the 6-3 third place Denver Broncos, starting with the real MVP, Lamar Jackson.
And no coincidence that the Denver Broncos have scored the most points in this league.
Yes, just look at the quarterback.
Just look at him. Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, who I keep waiting for him to run out of gas, and he keeps not doing it.
That Achilles is going to pop at any time.
Well, I'm a big J.K. Dobbins fan, so I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I love to see him doing this. Kamara's had a big season this year. He's just out there doing Kamara things.
He's the only guy left. He's the only guy left.
Yeah.
Him and Taysom Hill.
Tank Dell, he's been not as good as everybody wanted him to be. Flowers is streaky. Nakua is going to put it together here once he stops throwing fisticuffs. Kelsey will put it together towards the end of the season. Montgomery, all he does is score a touchdown every week.
End of the season.
What's that?
Towards the end of the year, he's just coming off a 14-catch game.
Who?
Travis Kelce.
What? I didn't say. Oh, well, I mean, he especially turns it on at the end of the season.
I feel like he's turned it on.
Okay, fine. He turned it on. And all it took was a bunch of injuries. David Montgomery, always going to score. Geno Smith, I'm not a Geno Smith fan, but whatever. Najee Harris has had 3 straight weeks of going over 100 yards, and I think he's going to have a 4th this week against Washington. Elijah Mitchell. Isn't there an IR?
There sure is. He's got 3 remaining IR spots open.
And Elijah Mitchell. Huh.
I don't know if this league really puts a lot of effort into.
Yeah, probably not.
A lot of casual players here. At least this is like their office league. Some of them are just here. They're just here so they don't get fined, type of deal. He's got all of his picks. Right. He hasn't made any trades.
I could just hear the bar talk right now. Yeah, my boss at work started this league that I have to play in.
I haven't checked my lineup. I haven't set my lineup in 6 weeks.
Where did I go? My computer is being all cracked out. Zamir White, maybe he broke my computer. Tyler Lockett's been okay doing Tyler Lockett things. He's there 1 minute and then he's gone the next. I like Debo. We got Xavier Worthy, Noah Fant, Damian Pierce, Jamalful Williams, and Christian Watson.
Got to get Debo in that lineup.
Yeah, So this team is scoring the most points, but not putting guys like Debo in their lineup and not caring that Elijah Mitchell is just chilling on the bench.
Well, he's coming off the bye, so maybe he hasn't come in and set his lineup yet, but
right.
You got to get him in there.
Yeah. But, it's as far as talent, I mean,
it's there.
If all of these people do what they're capable of doing, and I know that's kind of a loaded thing to say, then I like the depth. Well, I like the depth okay. But, you don't even have a spot for Xavier Worthy or Najee Harris right now, unless you put him in for Montgomery and then Montgomery. So, I like this team's chances, honestly.
We could have a really strong finish to the year with this team.
Yeah, it's just as long as everybody stays healthy. Like we said about, J.K. Dobbins. And I don't even mind Tank Dell being in there, even though he's underperformed for much of the season. If that's one of your 3, if that's the worst of your 3 wide receivers, I don't think you're doing too bad. And you're going to pull him out and put Debo in anyway. So,
yeah, I mean, Lamar is going to keep being Lamar. Alvin Kamara is going to keep getting every kick, catch, and punt in that offense. I think Tank Dell can get going. He had that same leg surgery that Tony Pollard had last year. Tony Pollard got going right around this time of year. We just saw the nice 126-yard game from Tank Dell last week. I know Nico's coming back in a week or two. But Tank Dell, he can get going. With Diggs out, I think they can get it going with him. Zay Flowers.
Nico might be back on Monday, maybe.
Maybe. But
that's going to confound a lot of people's lineups.
Right. Zay Flowers, I know he struggled this past week, but for the most part, he's been a stud.
Yeah, the week before, I thought he was going to have a horrible week. I wrote him up in an article to bet against him, and boy, did I look stupid.
Yeah, I remember our Sunday morning start sit show. You tried to tell people to sit him, and I made sure that they didn't listen to you.
Yeah. Well, at least the Twitch people couldn't hear me.
I think Puka can get it going down the stretch.
Absolutely.
Maybe Travis Kelce will turn it on and catch 16 passes at the end of the year. Yeah, this team, Debo, this team can get going. This team can really get going.
Yeah, this is a good team, man. Just start putting some work into your lineup.
Yeah, please.
But it's a good team. It's a solid team.
Let's move on to the one who didn't get the memo. MD, Mr. No Prisoners.
Okay, I'm telling you, Baltimore Ravens was taken, and this is Maryland, Mr. No Prisoners. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
If I remember correctly, I know you weren't on that episode, but I'm pretty sure this is the team I picked to win this league. Prisoners. Yeah, pretty sure.
All right, well, they're tied for first now.
Yeah, let's go. It's Jalen Hurts at quarterback. He was a little in for a little while, but he's getting it going here really strong the last few weeks. James Cook, I think you got to put James Cook on the trade block here. But Derrick Henry, ride him to the grave.
Don't put James Cook on the trade block.
Put him on the trade block. block.
This guy just loves Ray Davis.
I've never been a big James Cook guy. I think he's overrated in every facet of the game.
Well, unfortunately,
you got Ray Davis knocking on the door.
Unfortunately, Buffalo is full of James Cook guys.
Yeah, they are.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
AJ Brown, is that AJ Brown? Yeah. Oh, we have AJ and Amon-Ra St. Brown here. So 2 stud wide receivers, along with Khalil Shakir. Garrett Wilson has been getting it going. Juwan Jennings, we'll see what he does now that he's back healthy with no Brandon Ayuk. Deontay Johnson, I think if you can get anything for Deontay Johnson, at least I know it's a dynasty league, so maybe you're not desperately selling him because he's gonna go sign somewhere in free agency next year, and maybe that'll boost his value back up. But I think Deontay Johnson is pretty much going to be worthless for you for the rest of the season this year. So he's just going to ride your bench. Alec Pierce was going to remain on your bench as well. Kyle Pitts and Cade Otton. I don't know who you're starting week to week. I think it's going to be Cade Otton right now over Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I think. I think you have to play the matchups at this point.
They're just forced.
But Tampa Bay doesn't have anybody.
Yeah, at least until Mike Evans comes back, they're just going to force feed Cade Otton. I mean, they're putting Cade Otton in motion. They're moving him all around the formation. They're getting creative with Cade Otton. That's how desperate they are. And Cade Otton is like Dalton Schultz level.
Say Cade Otton again.
Cade Otton. What stands out to you here? Do they deserve to be the number 2 team in this league right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not shocked by it. And it's actually even more impressive considering, Garrett Wilson has had some down weeks, and
AJ Brown has missed some weeks.
yeah, AJ Brown missed time with injury.
Even
And
Amon Ra has had a couple of duds.
God, and they've got James Cook. So, but yeah, this is a strong team, and I'm a huge Khalil Shakir fan. He's especially going to go out and light it up this week, in my opinion. Derek Carr, I could leave. The running back depth is going to be a little bit of a problem. Because I don't know at this point if Corum or Brooks or Algier are going to be able to step in if something happens to Cook or Henry.
Right. They need an injury on their own team, real life
Right.
team, for them to. But if that happens, they could be the reason why you win this league.
Yeah,
for sure. They could take this team from the number 2 team to number 1, looking down at everybody from a distance.
Yeah, but I like this team. It doesn't surprise me to see it in second place. I think it's got a real shot at contention. I would like to see them put something together to get one more solid running back in there. Unfortunately, I don't know what that is, but it's
you could probably, I mean, considering it's a dynasty league, you could probably trade Jonathan Brooks.
Is this a tight end premium?
It is tight end premium, yes.
Well,
do you think we could move, at least for this week? I mean, I know you like Khalil Shakir, but we could always move Amon-Ra St. Brown to the wide receiver spot and put Cade Otton to the flex spot.
Yeah.
While they continue to force feed him.
Or you could trade Cade Otton to somebody that desperately needs a tight end.
Actually, that would be a really good move, considering that I don't think what Cade Otton is doing right now is sustainable at all. I mean, it could be for the next several weeks, maybe even for the rest of the year. But if you're looking towards the future, Cade Otton is way more comparable to a guy like Dalton Schultz, who just got there
and get yourself a middling running back. Somebody that you can count on for 10 to 12 carries a game. It's always going to get you a floor of 8 or 9 points. You don't have to go out and you don't have enough stuff to go out and break the bank on somebody big, but if you could do Cade Otton and Juwan Jennings for a even better running back, that would be very tempting.
I might do Jonathan Brooks.
Huh?
I might do Cade Otton and Jonathan Brooks. Let's go all in. Let's go. I mean, they just re-signed Chuba Hubbard to a 4-year deal. Chuba Hubbard's not going anywhere. I think eventually the plan is for Jonathan Brooks to be the starter, but I don't know if he's got full-blown bell cow in his future anytime soon.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's certainly some things you could do to shore up that extra running back spot. I don't think Buffalo or Baltimore have even had their buys yet. I don't remember for sure. But yeah, you're gonna need somebody in there, so you're not just throwing Algier out there and hoping he gets 5 carries. But yeah, put something together for someone else. Go to one of these bottom dwellers of this league that need to get rid of one of their older running backs that still got some juice in the tank, like a James Conner or someone
Christian
like that.
McCaffrey. I believe Christian McCaffrey was on one of these teams that was
right.
tinkering there.
Just go back and because it's dynasty, so there's no reason for them to keep the old guys. So if you can trade them, a young running back, like Corum or Brooks,
In being
and a wide receiver, then I think you should do it.
in being dynasty, you're not paying, the same price for a Christian McCaffrey that you would have to in a redraft league because of his age.
Right,
You're going
exactly.
to get a nice discount on a guy that could give you league-winning production down the stretch. Now, I'm not saying that Christian McCaffrey necessarily is the guy to target, but he's just an example.
Yeah.
You could go get a Alvin Kamara, who's going to be force-fed touches the rest of the year.
Right, and they're going to run him until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, yes.
All right, we're going to Baltimore. We've got Patty Mahomes with Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift, Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith, Tyler Conklin, your boy, Rome Odunze, Bo Nix, Jaleel McLaughlin, Jalen Warren, Odell Beckham, Ricky Pearsall, George Pickens, Brock Bowers, Brian Robinson Jr., who's out this week, and we've got Pacheco and Rice on the IR. Boy, that would have been nice.
Still in first place?
Uh-huh.
And you're still in first place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, God, could you imagine if he had Pacheco, Rice, and Mahomes? Like anytime Kansas City scored, he was involved. Yeah. That's crazy. I need to step away again just for a second. So take it away.
I gotcha. All right. Yeah. As I mentioned, Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is one of the pieces to build this roster around. He's a young stud wide receiver. He's a number 9 overall pick. He was an absolute production machine at Washington over the last few years in college. This is a guy, he could end up being better than Marvin Harrison Jr. This is a guy who's going to be a number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football, a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football for year in, year out over the next several years. And you're starting to see the wheels turning on his breakout. It's starting to happen. He's had target shares over 20% in 3 or 4 of his last 5 or 6 games. Over the last 2 weeks since the bye week, Rome Odunze has led the Bears in receiving yards. That included a 100-yard game last week. The breakout is starting to happen. Their schedule over the next several weeks, they're going to have some tough teams. However, those teams also have really good offenses, which means that the Bears are going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. They're going to be in comeback mode. They're going to be in shootouts, playing from behind. I know they got the cupcake Patriots this week, but after that, it's tough team after tough team after tough team. They play the Vikings twice. They play the Lions twice. They play the Packers. They play the 49ers. Welcome back. Literally, I've talked about Rome Odunze the entire time.
When I was coming back, I was like, I bet he's been talking about Rome Odunze this whole fucking time.
Rome Odunze. I sure have.
How badly do you want him to be a Patriot?
Oh, that would have been fun. That would have been fun.
Did you just come a little bit?
A little bit. Yeah, anyway, there are other players on this roster, actually. Like Justin Jefferson, like Saquon Barkley. These are guys who are top of their profession at their position right now. Barkley, Jefferson, just kidding. Not Odunze. Why do we have Odell Beckham on this roster, though?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Odell Beckham hasn't been relevant in fantasy football in years.
No. And especially not this year when they couldn't throw the ball. Like they couldn't throw the ball to the guys they did have. let alone Odell Beckham. Well, actually, they probably would have had an easier job throwing it to Odell Beckham over on the sideline somewhere.
Well, he can't run very far down the field, so it'll be a nice, easy pass for him.
Right.
But Odell Beckham, the only reason he's even in the NFL is because of one catch 10 years ago. That's the only reason he's still in the league.
Yep. I like I'm particularly happy about Pearsall here. Brock Bowers is a unicorn. He's on bye, obviously, but man, this is a good team.
This is the team. This is the team.
This is a really good team. I'm a huge Devontae Smith fan. Calvin Ridley has been really disappointing me. But I'm wondering, but now I'm wondering without Hopkins there, if they're just going to have to force the ball to him.
Calvin Ridley stinks.
I don't know if he stinks.
Stinks.
He's still really fast for 29. I'm just saying. So he should probably go to the Raiders. Bo Nix, you've got some future at quarterback there. Not that Mahomes is going anywhere anytime soon.
I mean, I think you're starting Nix over Mahomes most weeks.
At this point, well, you know, I thought that too, but I was looking at Nix's his like game log for like the last 5 or 6 weeks. It's not as impressive as we're all making it sound.
You weren't looking at the rushing yards, were you?
Huh?
You weren't looking at the rushing yards, were you?
I was not looking at the rushing yards.
That's where he gets there. He's not a good passer.
Yeah.
He runs it. He's Drake May if Drake May couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah, you know what? And he's and it's fun to watch him run too. I mean, he's looks like he has no fear and he's quick. He's really quick.
My fear is that he's Daniel Jones long term.
Well, that's a legitimate fear.
I mean, considering he's 25 years old, he was in college for about half a decade.
Right.
He's probably peaked athletically at this point. He's not going to get much better.
Do you think he still like wears his Letterman jacket to the stadium every day?
Probably does. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, this team is good, man. I mean, you take Conklin out and put Bowers in. If you take, Ridley out and put in Pearsall going forward, I think. Yeah. I think Pearsall is going to make a big splash.
Yeah.
And Jefferson and Devontae Smith, you can't really go wrong with those guys. I'm a little concerned about DeAndre Swift. You got Pickens too. So Pickens over Ridley is also
that
legit.
Should be the play. That should be the play.
A little worried about Swift. Like when he loses his job, because he's gonna. When he loses his job, who is gonna be your running back? I guess it's gonna be Brian Robinson Jr. As long as he can stay healthy.
And Pacheco could come back.
Pacheco could come back in time for the playoffs. I worry about playing him right off the list. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if they have a first round bye and his first game back is the second round, like, do you put him in?
No. Mm-mm.
You can't.
He's especially when you have other at least decent options here. He's a wait and see guy. I want to wait and I want to see.
I actually have stashed Jaylen Warren in a number of leagues. In redraft where there weren't a lot of running backs available. And because he just hasn't been healthy. And now he finally is. And he's not the type of guy that can, hold down the starting job for Pittsburgh, but he could be heavily involved in that offense, especially when you consider what Arthur Smith did with Tyler Algier in Atlanta. So I'm looking for Warren to make a splash down the stretch too, and at the very least, give you a really nice floor. And when you've got a bunch of guys that are this good on the team, he might be able to come in for somebody if somebody's banged up or missing a game or something like that. But this is the team.
Yeah, I agree. So, are we in agreement this team is going to win this league?
Yep.
Okay. Is it going to be
and not only that, but it's built to win again next year.
Yeah. This team, they're good now, but they have young pieces that are producing for them as well.
Right.
Like Brock Bowers, like Aduns.
Yeah, they're built to keep going. And I think there was another one. Was it the third place team, maybe? There was one, maybe it was the Broncos. Let me see.
Oh, yeah. The Broncos were good. Mr. No Prisoners was good.
Mr. No Prisoners, I think, is probably going to be. I think the 1 and the 2 here have a really good shot at facing off against each other.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but there are a couple teams, more than a couple, more than half the league, I think, that are going to be able to build and, not necessarily make a run right away next year, but certainly see market improvement after an off season. And that's the fun part about 10-team dynasty leagues. When you get into these 12 and 14 team dynasty leagues, sometimes it can take you 4 and 5 years to make any sort of move in the standings. But in 10 team leagues, just as long as the bench doesn't get any deeper, then I'm going to assume these guys know what they're doing enough to have left someone like Sam Darnold on the waiver wire, because he can't be making that much, and
$10 million.
He's probably going to get a contract from somebody at the end of the season. And if you're running Geno Smith out there on a bye week, I'd rather have Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, the Raider?
Oh, man. God forbid.
Doesn't look like a Raider.
No, he certainly doesn't.
He is like anti-Raider.
They'd have to get him the haircut. All right. What else you got, Alex? Anything?
I think that's it. I think Ravens and Mr. No Prisoners are going to be there at the end. Broncos are probably the third place team. If we're looking for a dark horse, we could look at the Packers or the Rams. I think those teams could make a run late in the year.
Yes, certainly not over, because an injury or well-timed breakout from some of these young guys could flip this thing on its head.
Yeah, and the great thing is, this is a 3-episode league, so we will get to be there at the end to crown the champion.
Awesome. I'd love to hear it.
All right. Well, we will talk to this league in a few weeks, and thanks, guys. This was fun.
Yeah, take it easy, fellas.